you so much for that presentation. I'm gonna change a lot of what I was planning to say. I want to tune in with what we have listened today. But definitely there will be stories and one trip. So I'm gonna start with some letters. This reads, March 13, 1962. President Kennedy has asked this office to thank you for your recent letter, Miss Linda Halpern. Your willingness to serve your country as a volunteer woman astronaut is commendable. However, while many women are employed in other capacities in the space program, some of them in extremely important scientific posts, we have no present plans to employ women on space flights because of the degree of scientific and flight training and the physical characteristics which are required. We appreciate your interest in and support of the nation's space program. Sincerely, Obi Lloyd Jr., Director of Public Information of NASA. Letters like these were sent to a number of women back in the late 60s. We all remember those words by Neil Armstrong. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And certainly he was talking about men, because only 12 men have walked on the moon. And the women that were there aspiring to be walking on the moon, they were stopped from any attempt to get closer to the moon. But what can an artist do? So I want you to close your eyes right now. And as you are listening to the sound of my voice and you're sitting in this theater, you'll start drifting away. And soon you're going to remember something that you have forgotten. Okay, open your eyes. I am not going to hypnotize you now. That would have been quite a trip. But this is how I normally start with a show, where I hypnotize an audience. And once they're hypnotized, I introduce a false memory. So when they wake up, they remember something they didn't live, but they experienced. And the memory is walking on the moon. I've done this in theaters all around the world, and I've been collecting people's memories of walking on the moon. Someone said, I saw rainbows. Someone said, I was floating in a tiny submarine. Another person said, the gravity was pulling me towards the earth while I was thrown into the stratosphere. All of a sudden, my body became weightless. Another person said, I could smell the dust of the moon. And also someone said, I saw my father who passed away. These memories, these experiences of going to the moon, yeah, maybe they didn't happen in this objective world, but they are memories, and ultimately nothing that you remember are exactly the events that happened in the objective world. What happens is how you experience things and how you remember things, amplifying emotions, situations, people, and ignoring and forgetting most of everything else. But, well, what can an artist do apart from hypnotizing people in theaters? We can be critical and we can open freely. And there is something that I call cultural space policy. Around 11 years ago, I started the first technical committee in the Astronautical Federation. Imagine the big federation of space organizations in the world. And in this committee, it was dedicated, it was built with intention for creating a door between arts and culture and the space sector. Later, I created the Cosmica Institute. Imagine a space agency run by artists, where we create all sorts of research, performances, and even educational programs like the one that we do in the International Space University, where future astronauts and space leaders get trained in topics like decolonization. This is something that we artists talk about, and it's a topic that touches me. I come from a colonized country. We call it Mexico today, and we're still going to therapy after that event. So why, when we envision our future, we see it in a colonized way? We talk about colonizing Mars, the moon, about having colonies. Either we want to do that, or maybe the colonial structures are still really fresh in our minds. We also teach them about space feminism. 80% of astronauts are men. We are far away from having a real diversity in space culture, and let alone talking about people from different origins on Earth and even queer culture in space. We talk about art. Space for artists is a black canvas where we want to use that opportunity to write from scratch the new ideas, the new visions for our shared futures. Just remember that before there was space activities and rockets and space agencies, there were artists already writing incredible histories, stories of exploring the universe. And today, certainly, artists are challenging many issues like space without rockets. Art can do many things. Also, it can bridge communities that are often forgotten, such as ancestral wisdom. We do projects that consist in listening. As much as we all are invested in inventing the solutions for tomorrow, we also have to silence ourselves for a bit and listen to all the multiple ways of understanding the world that we silenced and that we are not listening today. For an artist, what would be exciting about a symposium of Mars? To have representatives from indigenous communities that will tell us how should we approach another celestial body. And a lot about Earth. Earth is the most urgent subject we have in our table. And in my work, I get to train as an astronaut, which is pretty cool. But also I get to have many conversations with astronauts. And I'm fascinated by what we just heard of this cognitive shift of an astronaut when it comes back to Earth after a space travel. They say things like, for example, astronaut Jose Hernandez, a fellow Mexican-American, I had to leave Earth to come to the conclusion that borders are man-made. Astronaut Thomas Jones, I struggled constantly to this wave and avalanches of new emotions and sensations. Certainly, the overview effect can shift our consciousness and our appreciation to our planetary home. But what can an artist do? We like to question everything, and we're great at it. So why don't we have also an appreciation for looking at the sunset and develop a ground view effect where we can just stare to the horizon and realize that we are in a planet and this is a cosmic matter already. And finally, I want to conclude with one thought. I trained for cosmonaut I went through many of the stages, and I was in Star City in Russia. And of course, I wanted to do an artistic space mission in zero gravity, reflecting about gravity through its absence. Sounded to me poetic enough. I knew I was ready for that experience. I knew it was going to be easy to be released from this force that shaped my body. So I was there in the parabolic aircraft. We were speeding up. In that moment, my body was weighing twice as much as normal. And then the voice came from the pilot saying, "It's going to happen now," in Russian. I guess he said that. So in that moment, I was suspended. There was no up and down. All my system was crashing. Every point of my body was weightless. I didn't feel my body in that situation, and I felt that in that moment, me and nothingness and the void, we were the same thing. So in panic mode, I just like extended my arms and I just hugged and embraced the very first body that was crossing me. And as I embraced this other person, I started to feel myself and I started to feel my body. And it was a message of saying that we can only exist if we are together. And that's what I learned from that experience. So thank you very much.